What if the life you have right now is just the beginning, not the final story, but just the starting point for a future you can actually build yourself? Today, we're going to dive into this really powerful story about transformation. And it doesn't start in some fancy boardroom. Nope, it starts in a small, shared room in Bangalore. It's a story that proves the biggest changes really do start with the smallest shifts in how we think.
So, picture this. This is where it all kicks off. We've got two young women living in one small room. They work at the same company, they share the same space, they're living pretty much the exact same routine. On the surface, their circumstances are identical. But what's going on in their minds, well, that's about to launch them on two completely different paths.
All right, so let's get to know these two. On one side, we have Aparna. She's the realist. You know the type, super hardworking, disciplined, very practical. And on the other side, we have Shreka, the dreamer. She believes in a little bit of magic, in the power of the universe. So you've got these two totally different ways of seeing the world about to collide inside the same four walls.
And this quote from Shrika, this was the spark. It was her whole mantra, really. It's all based on the idea of the secret, the belief that if you focus your thoughts, you can attract what you want into your life. She was always telling Aparna that their dreams weren't some far-off wish. They were already real, just waiting for them to get their actions and their energy lined up. Now, for a pragmatist like Aparna, that was a huge stretch. But the seed was planted.
And this right here, this was the turning point. Think about it. After a long, exhausting day at the office, it's so easy to just complain, right? But they made a choice. They decided, okay, let's stop focusing on what our life is right now, and let's start picturing, like really vividly imagining, the life we actually want. And for them, that meant financial freedom and being able to work from anywhere in the world. So with this new way of thinking, they had to take action. It couldn't just be talk. They came up with a concrete plan. They were going to start a YouTube channel, and they called it Secret Billionaire, a place to share their whole journey of putting these ideas into practice in real time. And listen, they were all in. They didn't have a professional studio or expensive microphones, no perfect scripts. It was just them, a laptop, and this totally unshakable belief. But the real secret sauce? Consistency. It didn't matter how tired they were after work. They made a pact. One video from Shrika, one from Aparna. Day in, day out. No excuses. But in the beginning, crickets. For weeks, this was their reality. They'd pour all this energy into a video, and maybe 10 people would see it. Sometimes less. Can you just imagine the discipline it takes to keep showing up when you're basically talking to an empty room? And of course, that question starts to creep in, doesn't it? It's that moment every single creator faces, when you're putting in all the work and getting nothing back. They were doing everything right, staying consistent, but it felt like the world just wasn't listening. The temptation to just call it a failed experiment and quit must have been absolutely huge. But this is where that big mindset shift they made became their anchor. Instead of caving to the doubt, they just leaned harder into their faith. They truly believed they weren't just talking to a camera, they were building their new reality, piece by piece, even if nobody else could see the structure yet.
And then, after all that struggle, after all that faith, it happened. The breakthrough. And it wasn't a slow trickle. It was an explosion. One single video. It caught fire, and it changed everything.
And when it took off, man, it was like a rocket ship. The video that did it was actually super simple. It was a practical explainer on how they use visualization to land better projects at their own 9-to-5 jobs. It was so relatable, people could actually use the advice, and it just hit a nerve. They went from 100 subs to 1,000. Then, what felt like overnight, 100,000. Before they knew it, they were counting subscribers in the lakhs.
All of a sudden, that digital silence was replaced by a flood of messages just like this one. And that's when they realized this wasn't just about their personal dreams anymore. This little project they started in their tiny room was actually becoming a source of real inspiration for people all over the world.
And with that kind of impact came real, tangible, life-altering success. The two women who started with basically nothing but an idea, they were now each earning 5 lakh rupees a month. They hadn't just visualized financial freedom, they had literally built the system that created it for them.
And this is where the story just comes together so perfectly. Aparna, our practical realist, took her new freedom and used it to achieve her ultimate career goal, getting a job at CERN. And Shreka, the dreamer, she created her perfect life, working and traveling from the UK. Two totally different people, two totally different dreams. Both of them came true through the exact same process.
So look, this isn't just their story. It's really a blueprint. There's a message in here for all of us. So what can we take away from their journey? Let's break down how you can start building your own reality.
When you boil it all down, their journey reveals this incredibly simple but powerful three-step method. First, you gotta start with a dream. Be intentional. Have a crystal clear vision of what you want. Second, you have to trust the process. That means believing in what you're doing even when you're getting zero validation from the outside world. And third, and this is crucial, you have to stay consistent. It's about taking action day after day until your dream has no choice but to become reality.
Ultimately, the whole secret billionaire story really comes down to this one powerful idea. It suggests that our internal vision isn't just some fantasy, it's a blueprint. And that leaves all of us with a really important question. If your life is a reflection of your imagination, what kind of masterpiece are you designing right now?